Hey, good day. Uh, Today, Thursday, December the 2nd will be our last session for 15 minutes student final presentation, which also the last day of our classroom meeting. So without further ado, we are going to have six presenters. They are scheduled to give a scientific talk today. And the first presenter will be Zafiri Fadli Jauhari, which is going to talk about calculating optimal price in gacha with prospect theory.
Oh, can you see my screen, sir? Oh.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, before Zafiri start his presentation, I would like to remind the audience to fill in the assessment sheet of each presenters that scheduled for today. And also I would remind everybody to submit their presentation file, final paper, and also the assessment sheet later on the given folder that I've mentioned in the EduNext. Okay, Zafiri, the time is yours.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to present my paper about calculating optimal price in gacha game with prospect theory. But this time we will have a Q&A session. All right. So first, as you can see in the screen, I'm going to compare between trading, gambling, and gacha as a way to spend your money. So in trading, conventional trading, here we have 100,000 rupiah. Then you trading, then you always get the product. You always get the product that you want, and you always decide what you want. So I can say that it's equal in value and now output variation. Meanwhile, in gambling, here's the same. You have 100,000 rupiah. You do gambling, then there's a variation in the output. It's between 0 rupiah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you turn on your camera, please?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Wait. Wait. Oh, can you see my?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So where am I? Oh, okay. So yeah, there's two variation between 0 rupiah and 1 million rupiah. But there's but usually there's more. Usually we 10 or 6 or more. But for this example, I picked just two. So as you can see here, there's a clear increase or decrease between the input or the output. So if you get 0 rupiah, then you lose those 100,000 rupiah. Meanwhile, if you get 1 million rupiah, you get profit as much as 900,000 rupiah. So yeah, the increase and decrease of value is clear, but there's several output variation that usually you cannot decide. It usually decided by third party or the system. So it's out of your control usually. And the last is gacha. Here's the same. You have 100,000 rupiah. You do gacha. There's also variation, usually more than two, but I picked two for this example. The lowest rarity, usually common rarity, and the highest rarity, which is legendary rarity. Technically, you cannot compare the output and the input because it's not a money, so you cannot do that. But you know that the common is worse than legendary, so you don't have profit. Even if you get the legendary rarity, even if you get the highest, you technically still lose money, but it's better in quality. So I can say that it's the increase or decrease is vague in value, but there's also several output variations. And and to calculate this gacha, I'm going to use prospect theory. And prospect theory is basically assess their loss and gain of their loss and gains between individuals in a symmetric manner. So as you can see here, it's between X and Y axis, simple X and Y axis. But for the X-axis is gain and loss, usually in money. And the Y-axis, it's value, usually in quality. But in gacha game, you technically cannot gain money. You always lose money. But in gacha game, you can gain value. So the graph will be to the left, but it's not down. So to the left, but it's up. So yeah, you cannot gain, but you can always get value. Gain money, you cannot gain money, but you always can gain value. And yeah, the purpose of the paper is to find optimal price in gacha using prospect theory. So the optimal price, as you can see, the optimal price is usually between reference point to B. That's the optimal price. But in gacha, it's mirror. So it's to the left, but it's the same shape. So it's rising over there. So you still lose money because yeah, you cannot converse your character or item with money. But it's still rising. So yeah. So the optimal price in gacha in this context is like point 0 to B, but mirroring. So yeah. And yeah. So the calculation itself, I'm going to use cumulative prospect theory or CPT, and this evaluate the value with function U, but also called utility functions, relative to a reference point that separates all outcomes into gains and loss. But as I said before, you cannot gain money here. So as you can see here, W plus is representing gain, and W minus is representing loss. These two integral, these two area. But W plus it's always 0, or yeah, it doesn't have value. But W minus, we can it can rise or down, depend on the graph or the character you get. And for the data itself, there's several conditions I have to use. But firstly, the buyer's value is commonly known, and the buyer is aware of its dynamic and consistent preference. Because in this paper, I'm not to purchase the item myself, but it's very expensive. So there's third person that I watched that he spent the money that and the data then I calculate the data. So for this third person must be know that he played the gacha. So he's not surprised and suddenly stop using the gacha. So he must continuously use the gacha so I can get the consistent data. So the data that I can use is good lah. Okay. So as for the data itself is, firstly, it's the price of item or the money spent, how much you spend, and the value in terms of rarity. So the rarity in this game, the lowest one is 3-star item. The second lowest is 4-star. Meanwhile, the highest is 5-star item. So between these three, you want to always get the highest rarity, and you don't want to get the 3-star. Right. And okay. And here's the result that I get from calculating the data. Wait. As for the graph itself, as you can see, it's mostly flat between the 3, but sometimes there's always peak at 4, sometimes at 5. And yeah, that, yeah. So yeah, you can imagine that it's very rare to get the 5-star, but yeah, sometimes it's more, usually you get 3-star and then 4-star. So yeah, so as you can see here, the wish is how many unit that the person that I watch purchase. So he buy 500 unit and he spent about $1,000. So the average price between one character is about $2. Meanwhile, the quality of the character itself is the character that has 3-star is 430. The 4-star character is 63, and 5-star is about 7 characters. So yeah, if you add this number up, it's about 500. It's 500. So yeah, it add up. And from that data, I can say that the probability for the 5-star characters is about 1.4%. Meanwhile, the 4-star is about 12.6%. 3-star is 86%. And the optimal price between those rarities is the 5-star is about 142.86 US dollars. 4-star is about 15.87 US dollars, and the 3-star is about 2.33 US dollars. And that's all from me. Thank you for your attention. Now we go to the Q&A session. Okay. Oh, wait. Oh. Oh. Sir? Excuse me? Oh.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for the delay. Okay, questions for Zafiri? We have plenty of times for this topic.
Oh, what's it? Oh, excuse me?
Have you?
I cannot hear clearly. Wait. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the? Oh.
Oh, have you done with the talk?
Oh yeah, sure. Oh yeah.
Okay, so questions for the Zafiri?
Yeah.
Okay, based on the literature review that you collect for this study, have you found any similarity between gacha? I mean, people who invest or playing gacha with those who are working with stocks, for example?
Yeah. Even in the some people that I watch, they straight up say that they love gambling, but they know that the rest of gambling itself, and they use gambling as virtual gacha. Basically, they play gambling not to gain profit, but just to have fun. Yeah, there are people like that. So yeah.
What about stocks?
About stocks.
People who are also invest in stocks, because they will also lose if the price is going down, and if they're going to have capital gain if the price is up. So do you find any similarities between gacha and stocks from your literature study?
Yeah. As you can see, the graph is up and down as the stock, but it can be predictable because it's only 3 outcome here. This is only 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star. Meanwhile, stock is very valid. It can be rise to the sky or very high or down. But for the people itself in the community that I watch, it's they only play it for fun. They don't want profit. They just just play it for fun.
So there is some kind of a fundamental difference between stocks and gacha, is that the aims or the objective of people who are involved in this is not solely looking for profits, because there's some kind of a leisure and also entertainment probably.
Yep.
Okay, so in your literature study, do we have some kind of a regulation for gacha in Indonesia, for example?
Indonesia not yet, sir. Even for stock itself is not really regulated. So gacha, because gacha is shady, because you cannot gain money. So it can be like trading, but there's no cashback. So like buying, like Kinder Joy. So you buy the egg, but you don't know the price you get. So like it's a price, what a present should I say? So it's shady like that. But
okay,
yeah.
okay. So the price that you gain from playing the game is basically not refundable to a for a real money, if I'm not if I'm understand it correctly, and but it gives some kind of you know a good feeling for those who are involved in the game itself. Okay, thank you, Zafiri. Do we have questions from the audience before I'm ending Zafiri's session? Okay, if there are no questions, thank you, Zafiri, for sharing your topic with us so that we could have a variety of topics that relates to complex system physics or related to the related to the complex system physics, because it is not only relates to stocks nor atmospheric sciences, etc., and so on, because sometimes gaming itself is also part of it. So the dynamic theory can be applied there, and then we can also analyze there using artificial intelligence or those sorts of analysis, so that we could have a better understanding on the subject itself. Okay, so after Zafiri, we will have Jovan as our second presenter.
Okay.
Let me fix my chair. Okay, that's
okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Wait, let me turn on my video. Wait, sir.
Okay.
Can you all guys see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hi everyone. Good morning.
Okay, good morning.
My name is Jovan. I'm from Kelompok Keilmuan Instrumentation and Computation Physics, and I'm currently working with Pak Maman Budiman project with Bu Nina Siti Amina as the supervisor for my thesis. And my topic is RSSI Wi-Fi based navigation application development on Android smartphone. Technology is something that cannot be separated from humans and has a very high impact on humankind development. And every day, people compete to create an innovation to ease life of human. And one of the technologies that continues to develop is navigation technology. It helps us access unfamiliar environments, and as you all guys can see right here is an ITB physics building map, and it's quite wide, and people may have difficulties locating their destination here. And our purpose in this project is we want to make it easier for people to navigate inside ITB physics building. And with our project, I believe they won't get lost and won't have any difficulties locating their destination. So navigation is an important aspect for human activities. And I summarize 3 important things that navigation system must have. First, knowing our current location. And the second one, it can determine the destination. And lastly, it can estimate travel time and distance. Oftentimes, we use global positioning system as our navigation technology. What is global positioning system? It is a technology system that rely on satellites orbiting in space consisting of minimum of 24 satellites, and GPS has capabilities to determine the user's position and provide navigation to a location. However, they cannot penetrate solid walls or structures. The use of GPS has drawbacks, especially in indoors. Sometimes their signal becomes unreadable in indoors environment. Navigation system is not only needed in outdoor, but also indoor. For example, a mall building, a hospital, office building, and buildings consisting of several rooms or locations. And visitors often need a navigation to or from a desired location on the building. Therefore, it is necessary to have other methods with better capabilities than GPS as an indoor navigation system. Let me introduce you to indoor positioning system, or IPS. IPS is a system of network connected device which is used for wireless locationing of objects inside buildings. IPS technology can be vary in accuracy, cost, installation, and maintenance. And it consists of three distinct elements. First, a dynamic platform, location devices, and a mobile application. The output of this operation are presented in coordinates. First, latitude, longitude, and height. There are multiple positioning techniques that use Wi-Fi technology. We call it WPS, or Wi-Fi positioning system. And receive signal strength indicator, RSSI, and fingerprinting method is one of them. RSSI is a measurement of signal strength received by a wireless device. The data obtained with RSSI is stored in the database. Then the user sends a query concerning the RSS data to the database. That is, known coordinates are compared with the unknown ones, and the most accurate location is obtained. And we are using MQTT protocol. A protocol is a set of rules and guidelines for communicating data. Rules are defined for each step and process during communication between two or more computers. And network have to follow these rules to successfully transmit the data. MQTT is an oasis or an organization for the advancement of structured information standards. This is a standard messaging protocol for the IoT, and it is designed as an extremely lightweight publish or subscribe messaging transport that is ideal for connecting remote devices with a small code footprint and minimal network bandwidth. And in this study, we are planning to use Wi-Fi router to transmit the signal, and the smartphone as the RSSI signal reader. First, the RSSI signal data obtained from the user using fingerprint and k-nearest network to estimate the user position. After the position of the user and destinations are obtained, after it obtained, both of this information is processed by Dijkstra algorithm to acquire the shortest route the user will take. And the route obtained in the smartphone then delivered to the server using MQTT protocol. Then the signal is converted to distance using the log normal shadow modeling method. This is the formula for log normal shadow modeling. There is distance between the ground and the receiver. There is Gaussian random variable, and there is path loss index. And this log normal shadow modeling method is an extension to the free space model. It is used to predict the propagation loss for a wide range of environments, whereas the free space model is restricted to unobstructed clear path between the transmitter, and the receiver. The model encompasses random shadowing effects due to the signal blockage by hills, trees, or buildings, and etc. The study area divided into 96 areas, as you can see right here. There are 96 points, and there are 17 points for the router itself across the ITB Physics building, and save RSSI data in each area into fingerprint of each area. And each area will compare the stored RSSI value with the RSSI value that is read in real time by the user. These features are displayed in the form of an application on Android smartphone as the visual data interface on smartphone. In this study, we are using MIT Inventor app software to build the apps. MIT Inventor app is a cloud-based tool, which means you can build apps for Android or iOS device right in your web browser. An interface is one of services provided by the operating system as a means of interactions between the user and the operating system. There are 4 prevalent types of user interface: GLI, menu-driven interface, and GUI, graphical user interface, and touchscreen graphical user interface. User interface makes the exchange between users and machines are possible. The most crucial part in building an UI is the conveniences in communicating and using the system interactively. And right here, I have the final the apps displayed, and there are several components in here, like clear map, choose starting point, choose destination point, and there is the map itself. And you guys also can see the status broker, the message delivered, and the error code and the state. Each of these components are designed by the blocks logic in the MIT Inventor app that has been provided. Let me show you the building blocks. These are the example of the building blocks. These are the simple logic that we can use to arrange what will each component behave when we use them. Okay. Okay, that's all from for my presentation. Thank you for listening and have a great day.
Okay, thank you, Jovan. Questions from the audience? We have Dearly.
I have a question.
Okay, we have Herdi and then Rifka Fikria. Okay, Dearly.
Okay, thank you, Jovan, for the explanation. So why are you using the MQTT protocol instead of other protocols? Thank you.
Okay, good question. This communication protocol is a lightweight protocol because its message have a small code footprint, and we only need this protocol to deliver a short message. And there are limited bandwidth of a network. Let me show you the message that is delivered to using this protocol. Wait a minute. Oh. It's only a short message like this. So we are using the MQTT because it's a simple protocol. Is the message visible to you?
I see. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Jovan.
Okay. Second question from Herdi.
Can you tell me how you obtain the fingerprint data?
Okay. First, we use app downloaded in the App Store that can measure the Wi-Fi signal power in DBM unit. It is called Wi-Fi signal meter, if I'm not wrong. And as I mentioned before, we already divided the study area into several areas represented by points. There are 96 points, and we calculate the signal strength in each point for every router that has been placed. Let me share it. Right here. Right here. The red marker represented the router, and each point will have each fingerprint for every router that we use to measure the signal power. Okay. Okay. The signal strength detected by each router become the fingerprint for each point, for that point.
Okay, thank you, Jovan.
Okay, I hope that's answering Herdi and also Diri's question. Okay, the last question from Rivka.
Why do you use log normal shadowing method?
Normal shadowing method. Okay. Why I use this model? Because it depends on the environment. The environment we use is ITB Physics building, and there are many obstacles there, so we use the log normal shadowing method. If the place is wide and there are no obstacles, we'll use the free space model. From what I read, path loss in free space is about 2, and obstructed in building is about 4 to 6. So there are difference in path loss index here. So we are using log normal shadow modeling because it is because there are many obstacles in ITB Physics building, and it's not a wide room or wide map.
Okay, thank you, Jovan.
Do we have more questions from the audience before we close Jovan's session? Okay, so if there are no questions, let's congratulate Jovan for his talk so that we can move on now to the third presenter, which is Hauda Olivia.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hari and everyone. My name is Halda Olivia. Today I would like to present about my topic. The title is COVID-19 detection based on chest X-ray result using Python. And next. The COVID-19 pandemic is a global threat, and flat the average increase in active cases every day is around 1,000 cases. And the high number of cases that are not proportional number of healthy people. This statistic about it, and about health and detected COVID. And numbers point sharply but are currently falling. Various doctors and researchers are trying to look for accurate COVID-19 detection tools such as PCR and antigen. The doctor will insert a swab device that resembles a long cotton bud in here, the nose to the nasofaring. It's the upper part of the throat located at the back of the nose, and obtain a sample of mucus. And the process of early diagnosis or screening is not possible using last method. And this new method successfully penetrates chest X-ray image. X-ray is considered capable of describing lung condition in COVID-19 patients and can be clinical diagnostic tool. This strategy utilizes the COVID-19 radiographic dataset. The dataset has 1,000 chest X-ray channels, which are categorized into 3 classes, namely normal in here and COVID-19, and this is viral pneumonia. And the research, this method overcome this by making an analysis to help detect COVID-19 through the artificial intelligence AI feature using of convolutional neural network CNN. The data in the form of chest X-ray image is a two-dimensional image data that can be processed using deep learning with the CNN method. Then the model that produces the high accuracy will be implemented. And the next method of CNN. CNN is basically a multi-layer arrangement consisting of a convolutional layer in here, convolution layer, a polling layer called the feature layer, and a fully connected layer called the classification layer and the output. The models used are designed to be used to classify 3 labels in the first slide. And architectural model used in this research is VGG19 and ResNet 50, which has been decided. The models are designed to be used to classify labels. Modifications were made to the layer classification because the number of labels used in the classes was only 3 classes and 3 labels in here. Namely normal, pneumonia, and COVID-19. And this is the VGG19, the CNN architecture used in this VGG19. The VGG19 architecture generally consists of 19 layers. Each layer consists of a convolutional layer, polling layer, and activation layer, and with fully connected layer. It's the same of method of CNN. The VGG19 architecture use the concept that the more layers, the better, the more layers, and the better for the accuracy. Convolutional layer use 3 cross 3 in here. Filter with the number dimension increasing in each layer. And the dimension used in the filter are 3 in here, 3, 64, and 128, 256, and 512, and fully connected layer. It's the last 4096. So this is the method the ResNet. ResNet used in this study is ResNet 50, which has 50 layers as the name. And so that the ResNet 50 layers also consists a convolutional layer, pooling layer, and fully connected layer is the same with CNN, as well as adding a skip connection for every convolutional layer. ResNet 50 goes through 3 layers, and there is a 7 cross 7 average pool for convolutional layer. And the end, ResNet use the function softmax as an activation function. The softmax function can be seen equation 1, and in here the softmax for the equation. And next, this is a flowchart of deep learning about the method of CNN. This is originally started, and dataset, the type of dataset for training and testing. In this study, a secondary data that already exists, the data from internet too, and pre-processing. At this pre-processing stage, the overall size of the data set normalized to for VGG 19 model and ResNet 50. Then the data set is rescaled, which is processed make the image value. So this not increase from which make it easier to process input, photo process input training, and for loss accuracy optimal and testing. And if the loss accuracy as still increase, the training can be repeat to training. But if loss and accuracy is optimal, we can do testing and we stop the deep learning. And this is data set table 1 operational definition. It's research from Kaggle from variable normal, search from Kaggle, multi-manual. Totally the data is to 150, and pneumonia from Kaggle multi-manual to 152 at 250. And COVID-19 from Kaggle Tausifur Rahman is 219, and from Kaggle Bar is 31. It is operational definition. The total set is data set in here, normalized to VGG 19 model and ResNet 50. And this is the training and validations. The training and validations in here. This training process is a process where deep learning works so that to determine the accuracy and average loss in each model, and evaluation of the model is carried out using validation. In figure 7, the blue line in here, so the movement of the accuracy and loss value for training data. While the orange line in here for the loss values, and the orange line shows the movement of the accuracy and loss value of validation data. In the training process, this research use repetition or iteration epoch training process that stop automatically when accuracy cannot increase, and the accuracy from the accuracy several previous epochs. And every there in increase accuracy, the training will continue. Whereas increase in accuracy several epochs, the training end will stop, and the training stopped at 81 at epoch 81, and in here. And the testing and prediction, this testing is carried out using the best model during the training process, namely VGG 19 with 41 iteration and ratio 50%, 20% and 80%. And this ResNet ratio 50% with epoch 1. This process aims to find out new unknown data labels based on image patterns. by displaying segmentation and percentage accuracy. In this study, predictions were made using 3 new data to produce output. This is output for VGG19 and normal COVID-19 and pneumonia. The higher is COVID-19, 99.51%. And the evaluation confusion metric is an N cross N matrix used to evaluate performance classification models, where N is the number of target classes. The confusional matrix compare actual target value with those predicted by the machine learning models. Feature with the table in here, table that's the amount of this data is correctly classified, and the amount the test data that is misclassified. These 4 parameters are namely true positive in here, true negative in pneumonia, false negative, and false positive and false negative. The true negative is pneumonia. This is because there is number 3, it's pneumonia normal. And the conclusion, the proposed network architecture is based on ResNet 50, which has 50 layers, and VGG19, which has 90 layers. Based on result of the research that has been done, it can be concluded model VGG19 iteration with this, and by producing training accuracy reaching 0.96 in percentage, and loss value 0.0939. Predict the result of the entire collectively with COVID-19 label with the high accuracy value with 99.51%, and can be considered for verification and validation by medical personnel. And thank you for viewing this presentation. If you have any suggestion, please send email at slide. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Questions for Hauda? Okay, we have 3 who raised their hand: Patty, Anggita, and Rivka. Okay, I would like to give the first question for Anggita.
Okay, thank you, Halda, for the presentation. Okay, the question is from the CNN method. Why was the VGG model chosen with 19 layers and ResNet with 50 layers? Is there any other model that can be used for this research?
Okay. Because it's often used by researcher model can X-ray result chest X-ray for diagnosis COVID-19. COVID-19 using 3 classes convolutional neural networks models, namely VGG and ResNet. Because the VGG19 its base accuracy will be implemented to web based application. The VGG19 it's often researcher many researcher use the VGG19 tool and ResNet 50 models, and the ResNet 15 tool often used by researcher. And for the others model, for the new models, we can see that many other models such as like Inception and DeepNet, but I think I cannot with other models because yeah, this is very many researcher use VGG and ResNet. Has it been answered, Kirei?
Okay, thank you, Halda.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm inviting Rati as the second asking second question. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Halda, for the presentation. That was so interesting. my question is there any other artificial intelligence method other than CNN that can be used to obtain the same purpose of this research? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rati. For the artificial intelligence for the CNN, I think for other researcher use CNN because CNN very quickly for help doctors and researcher, and it's more like this in this study. Wait. Yeah, it's arrangement. It's very quickly, because the input and convolutional and with the pooling and poly connection and output, it's very quickly, and many researchers use this, and the method the model others model not use yeah just use convolutional neural networks. Is
Okay.
has been answered.
Okay, thank you very much, Halda.
Thank you, Rati.
Okay, the next question from Rifka.
Thank you, Halda, for the presentation. On slide 11, picture number 7, why did the iteration or epoch use stop at epoch 81? What causes this?
Okay, while I describe this, the training stopped with epoch 81 because there is no increase in accuracy, and accuracy is not increased with epoch 41 with the same line to 81 epoch. So the higher accuracy is produced at 41. And every time that if increase, the training continue. But if the accuracy not increase, will automatically stop. So, and the training will stop at 81. Yeah, it is it's been answered because yeah.
Okay, thank you, Halda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will invite Dearly as the last question for Halda.
Halda, can you turn back to slide 12?
Okay.
I'm very curious about how to distinguish visually from the chest X-ray output for normal, COVID-19, and pneumonia. Thank you.
Okay, when we view it from the image of the output VGG19 is distinguished by a red dot with this red dot in here, and like a blue mist in here, blue mist. For normal, there's no color like a blue mist, no color mark, and it's very clean yeah, for the normal. And for COVID-19, there is a red dot. If you look inside in here, there is a white dot. Yeah, it's about virus COVID-19. And for pneumonia, there is looks inside. There is a white dot. There is a red dot in here. Yeah, in here. And blue mist. This characteristic characterizes the difference in chest X-ray, and like a blue mist for the lungs. And this is that categorizes the difference in chest X-ray. Has it been answered, Dearly?
Yeah, it is good answer. Thank you, Halda.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Halda, and also the audience who asked questions on this session. Let us take a 2-minute break before we continue our presentation at 12.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the fourth presenter of today's session will be Aleta Laifania, talking about fundamental and technical analysis of stock prices of PT Jasa Marga. Okay, if you are ready, then you may start your talk.
Okay, sir. But first, I want to apologize, sir, because I cannot turn on the camera for my presentation.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. Good day, Mr. Hari and my friends. My name is Aleta, and here I'm going to talk about my topic, which is fundamental and technical analysis of stock prices at PT Jasa Marga. To begin, we all know that businesses must develop themselves in order to compete in today's market by applying contemporary management and competitive strategies. What strategies? High stock price is one of the competitive strategies that indicates that the businesses that owns it is more valuable. If a company's stock price grows regularly, investors and potential investors believe the company is effective at managing its business. So we should learn about this topic because we can discover and employ the most effective strategy for analyzing stock prices. When it comes to evaluating stock prices, there are two approaches. The first one is the fundamental analysis, which works by estimating the market's fair share and forecasting future values by combining past data. Before making investment decisions, fundamental analysis evaluates qualitative parameters, such as the economic environment, the industry performance, and the business's performance. Finally, the objective of this study isn't only to identify a successful firm and profitable business, but it's also to find businesses that are worth more than the investors expect. The second approach is the technical analysis. This is a means of examining and predicting price movement in the financial markets. It works by relying on prior knowledge of prices and related data to predict future values by using mathematical techniques. Technical analysis has more advantage or benefits than fundamental analysis, since it can provide good entry points, or also known as buying points, and exit points, also known as selling points. Another benefit of using technical analysis is that it clearly defines the target, which is the amount of profit we should get in a specific period of time, as well as the stop loss point, which is the lowest price point before we sell the stock. And this may help us avoid losing too much money. And finally, the technical analysis can give early signals before price changes, so allowing us to become more attentive and know what to do next. Moving on to the variables we are going to analyze, the first one is the current ratio. The formula is used to evaluate the company's ability to fulfill short-term obligation with current liquid assets. The formula is the current assets, also known as assets that can be quickly liquidated or cashed out in less than a year or one accounting cycle, and these assets must be quantified in currency units, divided by the current liabilities or obligations that are anticipated to be paid with current assets within 12 months or less than 12 months. And this might be categorized as current liabilities. So the first hypothesis for the study is the current ratio has a beneficial effect on stock prices at PT Jasa Marga. The second one is the debt to equity ratio, or DER, and this indicates the ability of the company to pay its obligation with its own capital. The formula for this is the total liabilities divided by the total equity. Equity is company's ownership of its asset, which is a net value and made up of deposits from the company shareholders and residual retained earnings. So the higher this ratio means the higher risk, the greater the risk for creditors, because a high DER indicates a lesser degree of protection for money. Therefore, the hypothesis for this study is the DER has a negative impact on the stock price at PT Jasa Marga. The next one is the return on assets. Every company must understand this variable in order to evaluate efficiency in transforming the money used to purchase assets into net income. The formula is the net profit divided by total asset. The higher the return on assets, the more effective the use of the firm assets, or in other words, greater profits can be created with the same amount of assets and vice versa. Then the third hypothesis of this study is the return on assets has a positive impact on stock price at PT Jasa Marga. The next one is the Composite Stock Price Index, or Jakarta Composite Index, or we call it GCI. When there is news that a country's economic state is degrading, it is almost likely that the GCI will worsen as well. When the GCI rises, it indicates that the stock price on the IDX are generally degrading. But please keep in mind that it is important to note that the GCI is a summary of all share price changes on the IDX. This means that the movement of the stock may differ from what occurred on the price of each stock. Hence, the hypothesis of the study is the GCI has a positive impact on the PT Jasa Marga company stock prices. And the last variable is trading volume. Trading volume is the number of shares exchanged in a certain period of time. Active trading of stock and with a large trading volume implies that the stock is popular among the investors and indicating that it trades fast. So the hypothesis for these variables is trading volume has a positive impact on the stock price of PT Jasa Marga. Move on to the methods. The data collection was carried out on PT Jasa Marga, which is listed on the Indonesia Stock Exchange official website, www.idx.com, and from PT Jasa Marga official website, www.jasamarga.com. Because this research employ quantitative data, we shall offer this data in descriptive style. The sample used for the study is the interim consolidated financial statement for the first quarter from December 2020 until March 2021, and the second quarter from March until June 2021. And for this study, we use classical assumption test, which consists of normality test, heterogeneity test, autocorrelation, and multicollinearity test. And if it is fulfilled, it may be concluded that the regression model is best linear unbiased estimation. The next step is the regression model. The regression model used is multiple regression analysis. After that, based on the result of the regression analysis, we can observe the coefficient of determination, and then we can start to test the hypothesis using the F-test and the T-test. So the descriptive statistical result from the sample we have used is shown on the first table, and here we have the minimum, maximum, mean, and standard deviation for all the 5 variables and the stock price. And then the first test we're gonna use is Kolmogorov-Smirnov normal test. Here in table 2, we can determine what distribution this data is from this component, and the value of this component is 0.2. This means this value is bigger than the level of significance 0.05, and this means that there's no difference between the data and the normal curve, or there is no difference between the data with the normal curve, implying that the data follows a normal distribution. Move on to the second test is the multicollinearity test, and from table 3, we can see that the amount of tolerance value has all exceeded 0.1, and the value of the VIF does not exceed 5. So this test meets the requirements, and we can conclude that the result of this test does not occur multicollinearity. The next test is the Durbin-Watson test. The total number of the data we use is 80. And from this test, we can conclude that there are no symptoms of positive or negative autocorrelation in the data because the result has met this criteria. The next one is the Spearman's rule test. This test requirement is where if the significant value is bigger than 0.05, then the data tested does not have symptoms of heterodicity. And by looking at the result, yes, we can see that the significance is all greater than 0.05. This means that this test does not have symptoms of heterodicity. Moving to the multiple regression equation, we can see that where if the independent variables, these 5 variables are fixed or worth 0, if it is all worth 0, then the stock price equal to the constanta A. This one, the 1,353. So from this equation, we can see that every increase in 1 unit current ratio will cause a decrease in the share price by this number. And the same goes on for the other variables. Move on to the next test is the coefficient of determination test, and we can see from table 7, the value of the adjusted R-square is 0.546, and which means that 54.6% of the stock price variation can be explained by the 5 independent variables, where the remaining 45.4% is influenced by other variables, such as the total asset turnover or price earning ratio and price book value. Lastly, the F-test and the T-test for the hypothesis testing. From table 8, we can see that the F-table value is smaller than the F-count value, which means that we can conclude for this test, the 5 variables have a significant effect on the stock price, and it is the requirements for the F-test. And for the T-test, from table 9, we can see that there's different T-count values for each variables, and there's only one T-table values for all variables. And if the T-count is bigger than the T-table, there's a significant effect between each independent variable and the dependent variable. So from this test, we can conclude that only DER, ROA, and trading volume have a significant effect on the stock prices. So the conclusion of this research is the test result. The stock price at PT Jasa Marga listed on the IDX 2021 is influenced by the debt to equity ratio, return on assets, and trading volume. Meanwhile, the current ratio and the composite stock price index does not affect the stock price, but all the 5 variables are simultaneously affect the stock price in this company. This is the end for my presentation. If you have any question, please ask right away. Thank you.
Okay, we have time for several questions for Aleta. Okay, we have one who raised his hand. Do we have more questions for Aleta? Okay, I'll let Rifki to ask the question first.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much, Mr. Harry and Aleta. From the presentation you have given, Ms. Aleta, it seems that this research or your research requires a lot of testing, and I saw some of them, maybe more than 5. My question is, why is that? Is there any particular reason that you do a lot of testing? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rifki, for the question. The answer is because if we start to analyze the data, before we start to analyze, we also have to know if the data is true, deviated, or biased, or it is not normal. This is why we use the classical assumption test, which contain the first 4 tests that I've shown earlier. And from each test, there are conditions and requirements. And if it all has met the requirements, it can be said that the data is correct. And after that, we can see how influential the variables that we analyze. Because actually there are many things that affect the stock prices, and it's impossible to have only these 5 variables. That's why we continue testing by using the coefficient determination test. And from that, it can be seen that the 5 variables that we analyze only affect slightly more than half of the stock price. This indicates that are still many other factors that affect the stock price at PT Jasa Marga. Well, after all of those tests, finally we can start analyzing our hypothesis, and we have defined at the beginning for the 5 variables. There are hypotheses for each factors, and we can find whether our hypothesis is correct or not. So that is the answer, Rifki, for your question.
Okay, thank you, Aleta.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
more questions for Aleta? Okay, we have Nabila. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Aleta, for your presentation. I want to ask about what do you use for the data processing? Do you just use Microsoft Excel and calculator, or do you use other apps maybe?
Okay, thank you, Nabila, for asking. Actually, at first I just used the Microsoft Excel, but then for normality test, multicollinearity test, and others tests, the Microsoft Excel doesn't have the feature. So I just use the software called IBM SPSS. The software is so much easier and more time saving than just using Excel, and it's a lot easier too. And there are a lot of tutorials for this software, so it's more conventional, I think. That's the word.
Okay, thank you, Aleta.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to move on to our 5th presenter, which is Herdi. Okay, thank you, Aleta, and all the attendees who ask the question for Aleta. Okay, we're going to have Herdi as our 5th presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
On this occasion, I will present my study entitled Relationship of DFF Event in Indonesia with Climate Factor using DCC-GARS method. The existence of the COVID-19 outbreak in Indonesia, along with several new
I'm sorry,
variants.
could you make it full screen?
Oh, this is full screen.
Okay. Okay, continue.
The existence of the COVID-19 outbreak in Indonesia, along with several new variants, the spread of which can affect various areas of life. Most people become more sensitive to the health environment, especially in the context of preventing the spread of the virus. Uniquely, although the COVID-19 virus can pass from human to human, this virus is actually an envelope virus. Envelope viruses are characterized by an nuclear capsid surrounded by an envelope membrane. This causes the COVID-19 virus to be easily influenced by the environment. Similar to the COVID-19 virus, the dengue virus is also an enveloped virus. Thus, basically, these two viruses are easily affected by their environment. Furthermore, the reason I choose the title is because there is a pattern that can be seen from the DSF incidence data in most provinces in Indonesia, especially provinces with relatively close distances. Effect of biophysics on dengue ecology, showing the interaction between climate variables, vectors, and viruses. Climate change can alter the space and time dynamics of dengue ecology, potentially increasing the range of vectors, extending the duration of vectors activity, and increasing the transmission period of mosquitoes. Weather in climate affects disease ecology at multiple levels. There's no linear interrelationship creating complex dynamics that are not easy to model. Human factors such as behavior, immunity, and socioeconomic factors contribute to this complexity. The main purpose of this paper is to determine the climatic factors that have the most influence on the DSF event and their optimal values of the dynamic conditional correlation method, and determine prediction the ranking of dengue hemorrhagic fever event is provinces in Indonesia using the GAS method. This study is expected to provide benefits in research on the factors that cause dengue hemorrhagic fever, especially climatic factors, and provide inputs for
Sorry to
designing.
interrupt, but I think the slides is not moving. Could you restart the sharing option?
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we have. Okay, let's continue. Continue where you describe the last.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The study expected to provide benefits in research on the factors that cause dengue hemorrhagic fever, especially climate factors, and provide inputs for designing the most effective public policies to anticipate a spike in cases of dengue hemorrhagic fever. Based on the type of virus transmitted, there are 4 variants of DSF, but the immunity provided by the 4 is not materially cross-protective. Thus, a human can be infected with up to 4 variants of DSF in his lifetime. After a person is infected with a virus that has 4 levels of this effect, that person will carry the virus in his body and will transmit dengue disease to uninfected mosquitoes when the mosquitoes bite the human. This means that although the life expectancy of mosquitoes is only 1 month until 2 months, this short time interval cannot be used as a benchmark in the cycle of spreading disease caused by mosquitoes, such as DSF. Therefore, in the study, I will use annual time series data. When the wind direction is opposite to the mosquitoes flying direction, the mosquitoes will increase its flight speed, and vice versa. When the wind direction is the same as the mosquitoes flying direction, the mosquitoes will decrease its flight speed. Thus, in a room with a relatively high wind speed, mosquitoes will have relatively less movement. When looking at data, the first thing that comes to mind is the average. Whereas the average does not provide an image of dispersion or scattering of the data, the mean of each different random variable may be the same, even though the distribution is not the same. Therefore, other quantities are needed to describe the distribution of the data. In language, variance is quantity that indicates the magnitude of the spread of data in a data group. In other words, if the X values tend to be concentrated near the mean, the variance is small, and vice versa is far from the mean, the variance is large. Correlation is reciprocal relationship of cause and effect. Covariance is a measurement that expresses the joint variance of two random variables. In short, correlation is a normalized from the covariance. If the covariance doesn't have a maximum or minimum limit, the correlation has a limit that helps you to establish the degree of relationship between the one variable and another variable. In the study, univariate on one variable analysis will be carried out using the GARS method. Bivariate and bivariate analysis or two variables using the DCC method. This is a framework of this study. The methods that will be used in the study are DCC and GARS method. In both methods, the maximum likelihood method is used in order to produce a lower volatility than the secondary data. Data is processed separately through the GARS method and the DCC method. The following is a flowchart of the GARS method. Initially, we're looking for the average value and the variance value of the change in the incidence rate data. Then we assume the average value as a constant and the variance value as an unconditional variance value. Then by setting the alpha value equal to beta value equal to 0, the initial value, the initial conditional variance value can be obtained by getting the residual value and determining the initial conditional variance value. The non-initial conditional variance value can be obtained, of course, by applying the question attached in the upper right corner. In the next step, the maximum likelihood method will be used to facilitate the method in the GARS method. The 5 boundary condition as attached will be used, and where C and D are constants that can be adjusted according to the accuracy requirements. Using the non-initial conditional variance value, we can find the time-dependent partial likelihood value. Of course, after determining the partial likelihood function first, since we use the GARS method, the partial likelihood function is attached in the upper right corner. The sum of the time-dependent partial likelihood is a likelihood value. And to maximize the likelihood value in the GARS likelihood function, we need to change for variable is alpha and beta, initial constant, and unconditional variance. In the same way as previous scheme, the new likelihood value is obtained. If the new likelihood value is smaller than the previous likelihood value, then the previous likelihood value will be used to obtain the next conditional variance value, so that the next residual value can be obtained. With the next residual value, we can obtain predicted value. The following is the forecast of DCC method. Until this text, the differences between the GARS method and the DCC method is only in the correlation value, but in the future, it will be very different because the goal for both are different, so that the equation used are different. Some of the initial equation that will be used are attached in the following chart below. The thing to note is that the value of stage 1 or initial value of each variable usually has a different equation with the non-initial value or the value on the second stage and so on. If the GARS method use 2 constants, in the DCC method 6 constants are used. Another difference is that resulting output is matrix. such that covariance is used. Of course, by applying the equation attached to the chart on the right. By using the non-initial conditional covariance value, time-dependent correlation matrix is N. By using the time-dependent correlation matrix and the volatility matrix, the beta value will be obtained. Of course, by applying the equation attached to the chart below. Similar to the GARS method, the DCC method will use the likelihood method. However, the likelihood function used is different, and there are X variables to be changed. The following is the result of data processing from the DCC method. 3 graphs above is time-dependent correlation graph for the provinces with the highest average correlation for each climatic factor. And 3 graphs below are beta graphs for the provinces with the highest average correlation for each climatic factors. And the most optical climatic factor is determined based on the magnitude of the obtained standard deviation of the time-dependent correlation on each climatic factors. And the smaller the standard deviation, the greater the influence of these climatic factors on the DSF event. The optimal value of each climatic factor is determined based on the value of the climatic factors when the absolute value of beta is maximum. The following is the result of data processing from DCC GARS method. The predicted value of the DSF event in 2020 in every province in Indonesia is shown along with the predicted correlation of its climatic factor. The tables above shows the result of the analysis of the most influential climatic factors on the DSF event and their optimal values. The table also includes a comparison of the result obtained from the following study with the result obtained from other studies. The chart below shows the conclusion of the following study. Number 1 is the most influential climatic factors of the DSF event is humidity, followed by wind speed and temperature. Wind speed and temperature. Number 2 is the optimal value is humidity is 83.6%, and the optimal value of wind speed is 2 seconds, and the optimal value of temperature is 27.2 Celsius degree. Number 3 is correlation value of the event between prediction result and factual data is 80.5%. Sorry, that's all, and thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Questions for Herdi? Okay, we have 3 questions from 3 students. Okay, I will like Jovan to ask the first question.
Okay, okay. Herdi, I want to ask about why use DCC and GARS methods. What are the advantage over other methods that can be used?
Thank you, Jovan, for your question. The answer is because the DCC GARS method is 2 methods that have the same foundation and both are fairly new and general methods. Out of the newest or not the most general, the GARS method used in this study is not too complicated because the distribution model is normalized, different from using non-normalized distribution such as Laplace, Staden, and general error distribution or GED. The GARS method is also not too difficult when compared to the MGARS, IGARS, or TGARS, or other types of GARS methods. but the GARS method is newer and more general than ARCH, atau not as new as AP ARCH. Some is GARS method, the DCC method or dynamic conditional correlation method is newer than constant conditional correlation or CCC, but not as new as dynamic equicorrelation or DECO. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Hardy.
Okay, the next question will be given by Hauda.
Hardy, I want to ask about primarily of the method. What's different variance, covariance, correlation, and univariate, bivariate for the method?
Different about correlation of and covariance is literally correlation is correlation is literally normalized form of covariance, but covariance is the same with the correlation, but this doesn't have a maximum or minimum limit. And the univariate and bivariate is argument for one variate analysis, univariate, and bivariate is argument to two variable analysis. In the study, the bivariate analysis is the DCC method, and the one variable analysis or univariate is the GARS method. And yes, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Hardy.
And then the last question will be given by Kirei.
Okay, thank you for the time, Hardy. Climatic factors are external factors. Can the internal factors be processed using this method? And is there a difference in data processing if you use internal factors? Thank you.
Thank you, Kirei, for your question. The answer is yes, but is very difficult. This is because the constants applied to the data must be very specific. If not, it's fair that the result obtained will be far from the reality. For the second question, the data processing is different or not is depend on the accuracy requirement. Sometimes the barrier is not in the processing, but in the processing software. For example, Microsoft Excel has an accuracy limit of 10 to negative 16 power. If the variance of the obtained time-dependent correlation is smaller than the accuracy limit, for example, 10 negative 16 power, it's likely that the result obtained will be far from the reality. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have more questions for Hardy? Okay, in my list, it's supposed to be we have Mohri Iza or Fadila Salsabila. Do we have Mohri or Fadila in the classroom? Okay, if there are no Mohri or Fadila, then we're going to end our session. For the final presentation, I would like to thank everyone. Give a big round of applause for the 5 presenters that we have today. Everybody who involved in the final presentation from session 1 on last week's Tuesday until today have done a very tremendous job in preparing and also delivering the information of the selected topic that they have. And so this will be the end of our classroom meeting. The final the final day of your poster presentation date will be on December the 10th, if I'm not mistaken. And then I will set up a meeting session if it's necessary, so that you can submit the or not, or probably not. It depends. If you are willing to have a meeting session, then December the 10th will be our final meeting session. Or if you don't need to meet directly with the teacher, then today will be the last meeting. But nevertheless, thank you all for participating in the activities designed in the class. And so, okay, we have question from Hauda. Do you have question, Hauda?
What's deadline for final papers?
Okay, so let us set up the deadline for the final papers also in the December the 10th. Okay, December the 10th, because if I'm, okay, let me open the ITB academic schedule, because your final grade should be given on, let me see, kalender pendidikan. Okay, it's 2021-2022. Your final grade should be announced at January the 4th, right? January the 4th. So I'm hoping that all of the assignment that you have from poster presentation, and also the poster itself, and then the final draft of, and then the final version of your paper, let us submit the deadline on December the 10th. Okay. Okay. Rifki.
Okay.
You have question?
Sorry, it's not a question actually. I got information from my friend that Fadila is still in the hospital right now,
okay.
so she couldn't attend the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the information. So probably in December the 10th, we need to Fadila will deliver her 15 minutes presentation if it's possible. And then all of you need to submit all of the, for Fadila's presentation, you don't need to make an assessment for her presentation, because the assessment will be done by myself. Okay. Hope for the best in this final semester, in the finals. I wish you all good luck for your completion of your classes that you take in this semester. For this class, I'm hoping that you could make the deadline for your final paper and the poster presentation on December the 10th, so that by January the 4th, your final grade should be available. Okay, thank you all for attending the presentation session. Thank you for all of your hard work, and I will stop the recording.